Making new product is a little bit different than it was. So now I do samples on what I call the cheap growing machine, and that's a resin, and it's grown from the vat of resin there. After the models come off the 3D printer, the resin models then go into this, which is an alcohol bath that has a little spinner in it, and they get cleaned for, it depends on the type of resin. This particular resin gets cleaned for 6 minutes. And they've just come out of the alcohol bath. I spared you the drying with a hair dryer, so you dry them with a hair dryer. I now put them into the UV curing station. So what's going to happen is I'm going to put the lid on here. It's got it set to 10 minutes, and I push the button, and that's UV light with a turntable. And those models will turn around and get their UV curing. Right now they're a little soft, so the UV light helps them to, the resin to sort of dry and change properties a little bit and become more of a stable substance. When the models come off the little growing machine, and what I happen to use is an Elegoo Saturn S, they come off, and I've already put these little sprues on, and that's how they actually attach to the plate. So these need to be removed. It's a little bit different than the big machine that we use that puts out the wax, and that has support material that you need to actually get off in an alcohol bath. So, you know, they both have their pluses and minuses. Some are, in some respects, that's easier. In some respects, this is easier. So first thing you do is you cut all the little supports off, and then you've got your model. And now I need to see what's happening with the model. So the first thing I do is I put it on a cord and just see how things hang. So there we go. So I think people forget that with jewelry, you know, jewelry is, you know, little finely engineered pieces. If you've ever worn bad jewelry, you know it. But more importantly, if you've ever worn good jewelry, you know it. So good jewelry hangs beautifully. You don't know you're wearing it. It's a sheer pleasure. And that's what we really strive for. Even the pieces that we do that are quickies for TV and films, we try to make them as nice as we can. Scott, coming from the fine jeweler background, that's what he was all about. And truthfully, it makes the, you know, part of why you're making the prop and making it look so good is to make the actor feel like they're wearing the authentic thing. So, you know, that's as much as important as making it look good on screen. So, you know, anything that can help them to sell their part, that's what they're always looking for. So. Okay, so I've cut the pieces off of their sprues, and now I can really see what I've got. So this is the initial size I started working with, and it's about 1.25 inches. As I mentioned, I know that I wear much bigger pieces than a lot of people are comfortable wearing. I think it's actually really a cool size, but I realize, and I'm listening to you, that some of you like smaller pieces. So there it is, size down, 50% on the X and Y axis, not on the Z axis. So what that means is that that's about, let's see, 0.625 inches. So like I said, I need to kind of look at it, see how things hang. This is it on a really nice fine chain. I think that's actually pretty cool. I think that's a really cool size. I think people might like that. So, and then also I'm doing some, thought, well, what if we just do the dog or a dog? How can I get it to balance on something? And so by doing a tube in the back, that's what I'm looking at doing, something like that. So, and I'll actually wear these things around to see how they hang. And then these are some little tiny, I don't know what you would call these, almost cameo-like, but a square, and I've got a round one and doing dogs on it like that. So, and then a lot of times I'll try to do different dogs. So these days I'm, you know, playing with greyhounds and even roaching. So different positions, you know, how do they look? Podenco, that one's kind of funky because it grew weird, but let's see, here's the small version of this. And then that's a Balgo. So anyway, this is how I do my proofing these days, is I actually output it on the resin printer. And then I try to see, like I said, work out all the problems and go from there. So, you know, I'm looking at how does that tube work? Is that an efficient way to do it? You know, I'm kind of looking for to keep them simple from the front so that you basically just get the piece. You don't get how it's hanging. So anyway, that's how you design pieces. So, and prior to this, you know, and I'll show you that process as well. I do have a sketchbook, and I do little sketches. And from those, the sketchbook, I go onto my iPad and I do more sketches. And then I take those and I usually bring them into Illustrator and play around with them there, and then bring them over into Rhino and do a 3D model, then bring it into what used to be clay tools and now is called 3D Sculpt, and using a haptic arm, turn it into basically clay. And then a lot of times I do my finished work in ZBrush, and from there it goes on to the growing machines.